I managed to do.
And
I managed to make
here we
everything
go.
small. Okay, there we go.
People can actually hear us now. Yay!
Oh, hello.
They can't see us
Hello.
though because I'm not letting them see us.
Yeah, don't let
All
them see
right.
us.
Welcome to Forged at the Table. I am your host tonight and your dungeon master, Charles. These are the players. And tonight we're going to play a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons. Let me get my pre-game spiel out of the way. I'm sure everybody out there is so happy to hear it again for probably the 20,000th time since this channel is launched. But we are all about tabletop role-playing games here at Forge at the Table. And more importantly, we're about involving our viewers in what it is that we're doing. So for example, you will see that there are 4 players in this game tonight with me. All 4 of them are either subscribers or followers. Here in a bit, we're actually going to go around the table, let everybody introduce themselves, introduce their characters, tell us a little bit about their characters, and give a character description. And then probably within the first 5 minutes, I will have the lovely chance to kill these wonderful people, and then we can go back to doing what's important, watching Pokemon.
Why, yes. I did miss today's episode. I'll go check it out.
So, what this is going to be is exactly what it's titled. It's a one-shot. It's going to be roughly 2.5 to 3 hours worth of game time for everybody to enjoy. One of the things we're trying to do here is involve everybody, and this very well may be the first and last one-shot for a while, because we're going to be switching the format to where we're going with what's called a pop-up game. So 3 to 4 times a week, there's a possibility that I'll make an announcement either during the stream, beforehand on Discord, or on Twitter. I'll announce that I'm going. The first 4 people that are followers or subscribers that get a hold of me in Discord and let me know they want to play, they get those shots. We put them in on the stream similar to this, and we play Dungeons and Dragons for a couple hours. Completely impromptu, completely off the top of my head, most likely. Well, just like this game is. So let me get these out of the way. I want to give a shout out to Zentari and to Werewolves 8 Our World. They gave us, both of those fine folks gave us a follow while we were off stream. I want to give another shout out to a Zangoose who dropped the follow 23 minutes ago, and 20 minutes ago dropped a subscription on us, a tier 1 sub. Thank you for the sub. We will put that money to good use. Welcome to the Forge. Welcome to our unique and, yes, sometimes dysfunctional family. If you have the capability of dropping some anvils in the chat for that person, please do so. Welcome aboard. Everybody will notice that down below there is a way for everybody to get involved in this little thing. You can donate money, you can donate bits, you can have an effect, you can do the right thing, which is giving me all the bonuses.
No.
Or you can do the wrong thing, which is giving these folks the bonuses. At which point I won't have them roll. Everything will be a sneak attack, and I'll kill them that way. So, how's it going, Swarmzy,
go.
A Zangoose, Mad Clergy? There's that Force of the Table person, Bubbles. All right, welcome everybody to the stream. So let's kick the tires and get this thing rolling, because I know that we've got some nervous people in the chat. So we're going to start with Jens, our veteran. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your character, describe your character, all that good fun stuff.
Okay, hi. I'm Jens. Of course, I'm playing a character that was created by the chat like a couple weeks ago or so. Her name is Haberdashia Leafwind, and I think she's just going to go by the name of Habby. So hey, call her Habby. She's a gnome sorcerer. She was orphaned at a pretty young age and taken in by an elf lore master type magic guy who was kind of secretive and weird, who was not a sorcerer. He was actually a wizard. So he took her on because her magic was more natural, and he was kind of interested in that. And there's some secret stuff behind her, which we'll probably not get into as far as character stuff here, because we're just doing a one shot. That's about all.
All right, Happy.
All right, hello. I'm Happy Zoo, and my name's Pasture Slowwood, but you can call me the Slowwood Assassin. I'm a total warlock. I've been studying the arcane magics around here, and been doing a bit of analysis on tombs and stuff. I've got a giant, no, it's kind of a tight-fitting cape around my giant shell and kind of flaky skin. And I left the college to pursue a new career in the mercenary work a few hundred years back.
Let's go with Karantina, 87. Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Karatina. My character is Princess Zaza. She is a Tabaxi rogue. She is one of the one-shot characters that everyone made on the channel. And she was the daughter of a very well-known and respected blacksmith, and her mom, being the social climber that she was, made sure that her daughter was well educated, and she is well versed in social graces. As a result, she was supposed to be married to someone of great power, but she chose to run away because when she would hang out with her dad at the blacksmith, she heard all the stories about people slaying dragons and doing all that, and she wanted to experience that for herself.
And King.
I'm King KDV. You've all seen me in the chat more than likely. And I'm playing Seeth, an Air Genasi, who has been expelled from a magical college. He was a professor, ran some unsightly experiments in the college eyes, and got himself expelled.
And I am Charles. I am your dungeon master. Let's see what kind of chaos and havoc we can get up to tonight. We are going to be taking a break, probably about an hour into this thing, for about 5, maybe 10 minutes, and then we will finish off with the rest of the game after that. The gist of tonight's adventure is the 4 of you, or 5, 4 of you, there's 4, yeah, I don't know, I made the overlay. The 4 of you have claimed a bounty marker from the local ward house in the small northern hamlet of Ambril. The house's marshal, Haljarin Creep, a small gnome with an air of mystery and quite possibly the most leathery-looking gnome you have ever seen, has informed you that you will be the 3rd group to have tried on this bounty in the past few months. Of the 13 other members that went out to claim this bounty, only 1 has been recovered, and not much was untainted or left of the poor soul. There is a creature north and west of the small farming community of Treese that has forced the farmers from their lands and to seek safety behind the wood palisades of Ambril. The farmers claim the creature is of the Vale and reeks of profane power. Haljarin has informed you that there is a ruin in the area, an artifact of the old kingdom. This may be a place to investigate. He also offers you the chance from a local priest of Candrel, Lord of the Seasons, to be blessed. Candrel is a minor deity governing aspects of the changing seasons and is unique to the north. You now stand in the central room of the ward house, readying for your journey. The last thing that Haljarin told you as he handed over the leather-wrapped wooden tube that contains the bounty is that a new family from the area has reported their daughter missing. The time is now urgent. How is Jens over there in chat and also here in front of me? What kind of sorcery is this? So the 4 of you arrived in Ambril late last night. The few folk that you managed to pass by, which were probably a couple militia, a few of the standard townsfolk, and Haljarin himself, all kind of fixed you with a bit of an odd look. Everybody that you've seen so far is of human blood and human nature. You all being... for the most part, probably able to cover yourselves up to some extent. The Tabaxi doesn't probably stand out as long as her cloak is pulled up. The Air Genasi can blend in easy enough unless somebody takes an exceedingly close look at you. The gnome slides by. But there's one figure amongst your party that seems to draw more attention than everybody else, and that's the rather large turtle that's traveling with you. And from the looks that crossed everybody's faces, visages last night, you could tell that nobody in this place has seen anything quite like a giant walking turtle. You passed a few young children that with looks of surprise, astonishment, pointing fingers, eyes wide, mouths agape, could do nothing but kind of gasp as the turtle walked by. You spent last night within the warm confines. It is early mid-spring. You did spend the quiet time last night in the quiet confines and the warm environs of the inner part of the ward house. The ward house is mostly just a large central room with some back offices. You were able to find enough comfort to sleep near the fireplaces and such of the main room. You now find yourselves the next morning standing there. Haljarin has went back into his offices and left you with who exactly took the leather-wrapped wooden tube that contains the bounty. Okay. The last thing that he told you, besides the fact of the child missing, is the fact that you would need to bring back some proof that the bounty was fulfilled, and left it at that. There's only a couple people still standing in the ward house's main room, off in one corner, kind of sitting by a little table, off by himself. Looks like he's thumbing through some cards. Appears to be a small halfling. His cloak is pulled back. He looks to be fairly well dressed. He was in here last night when you arrived, and you have yet to hear him say anything whatsoever. You can all stand there in the warmth of the fire. You do feel the pressure of this bounty kind of weighing heavy on you now that Haljarin has told you that there is a child. You were given a small scribbled map that shows you a rough basic trail on where to go and where Treese is at. It is probably about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. What are you going to do? Is everybody just kind of like, huh? We gotta talk now?
Where can I find food? I'd like to eat breakfast before going on an adventure.
Everybody was fed by the ward house's cook this morning. Your bellies are full. Any water skins, wine skins, that sort of thing are full. And you have been allowed to provision based out of the ward house's stores. So if you want to, you can actually go ahead and open up your characters and add 3 items, non-magical, that you may not already have.
All right. Let's see. What can I find then?
Wow, 3 non-magical items.
Yeah. Well, you can have 3 really rare items. They're all cursed.
Yeah, I'll take all the cursed items.
10-foot pole.
Let's see. Let's see. I have 3 books now.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know what to do.
I grab a backpack and just kind of harness it to the back of my shell.
Okay. Nobody is really paying attention, and you get kind of a feeling that like there's the halfling, there's the ward clerk behind a short, kind of low wooden desk. You figure he's probably human, although he could be gnomish or probably even halfling if he's sitting on a raised stool or something like that. Nobody in here of the 2 or 3 people are paying any mind, and you almost get the feeling that they're trying not to look. Like the whole staring is impolite thing, but again, you are traveling with a rather large turtle, which is in and of itself in most places probably fairly strange, but this far north, even stranger. You're all familiar with the Veil. Pretty much everybody in the North has been raised on stories of this magical curtain that was summoned almost 1,500 years ago to push back the evils that went bump in the night. And you've all been raised on the stories of how that veil has failed, that it hasn't kept the lands peaceful, that it's created a way for evil summoners and sorcerers and wizards to bring about their evil doings upon innocent people. Because of this, you've also been raised to be hyper aware of the fact that magic is oftentimes shunned and looked down upon and looked upon with suspicion. You've heard tales of how magic can attract the attention of those things that haunt the night, those things in the darkest of places, imagination in a real world. So, welcome to the Wildwood Reach.
Awesome.
Double whammy for me.
Yeah, has everybody managed to gather up your gear and all of that?
Yes.
All right. You can all feel the morning rays kind of dancing around outside and through the slats, the open slats, and some of the slightly shuttered windows. You can see a myriad of different kind of drab colored light brown and tan and dark gray tents and stuff that have been set up throughout the small village of Ambril. Ambril is normally maybe 15, 20 buildings roughly. Now it's kind of overfilled to capacity. It normally has probably maybe 100 people in it. It now has closer to 200. And you can feel, even before you exit out this morning into the village proper itself, you can feel the tensions kind of beginning to seep. Like, you ever been like to say a Black Friday sale at Walmart? You almost get that sort of a feeling that somebody's about to start swinging, that people are packed in a little bit too tight. You can feel that tension just kind of beginning to bubble and beginning to surface outside. Off in the distance, you actually hear somebody maybe scream out at somebody else, and an argument kind of begin to brew up. And then you hear a couple of footsteps go marching by at a rather quick pace, a quick step. And you can just about imagine it as probably the local militia. Who's going to lead the way out of the ward house?
I'll take the lead out.
All right. Are those of you who are not, well, I mean, like the turtle can't do a whole lot. Are the Air Genasi and is Seethe and Jaja? Are you guys gonna actually like pay attention to maybe pulling your cloaks up, or are you just gonna walk straight out and be like, haha?
I'm gonna leave my cloak.
Right, we can't hear you there, Caitlin.
Duh, I forgot to hit the button.
So
I'm gonna make sure my cloak is well over my ears and that my tail is hidden as well.
Okay, so Seethe leads the way out, and you all step out, and there is indeed a clear sky. The morning sun's rays are beating down around the village. It's kind of set up with kind of a T-cross central kind of a roadway that comes in and out. You can see where the trail that Haljarin was talking about that leads north towards where Treese would be. And you can see where that leads out. It crosses over a small, maybe a 5-10 foot wide creek. A small low-slung wooden bridge is there. And you can see an enormous amount of people, easily 200 people just kind of milling about. You can see children kind of staying close to their tents. You can see the parents just inside, and you can definitely feel the tensions that are brewing around this small village. Not only probably because of the overcrowding, but because these people, the newest refugees that have come in from Treese, a lot of people will probably look at them as possibly bringing something with them that people here don't want to come with them. As the final member of your party, the turtle, Bashar, steps out, you can kind of hear a couple people give low, kind of under their breath, kind of gasps. You hear a mother, stop staring, and smacking on a small child. This child is kind of standing there, mouth agape, eyes wide, just jumping up and down and pointing this excitedly as this giant turtle kind of angles his way out from the doorway. You all stand there, all eyes kind of begin to fix on you.
I shout out at the top of my voice, "Don't worry, dear citizens of Ambro, we will save the day."
People, when they hear Shar kind of talk, his accent is kind of weird, strange to this area. The cadence of his voice, the way his words flow out, is also quite strange. And even this hyper excited child kind of stops almost dead, and if her jaw could distend in further awe, it probably would, because Hasar's words are hitting her ears, but it's not like they're making any sense. And she kind of does, she almost reminds you a bit like a puppy that's confused and kind of cocks her head a little bit to the side and just stares at you. You can see a few militia and stuff milling around. Can the two warlocks roll me a perception? No, roll me an arcana. Roll me an arcana.
Arcana?
Yeah.
All right, I got you covered. Give me a second.
9.
I need to do math.
The mighty 9.
19.
19. 9 and a 19. So, Sees, you somewhere in this village with this throng of people that are gathered about and just starting their morning routines. You can see cookpots being set up on triangles and fires being lit and all of that. You can sense somewhere out to the far edge, and as you look out to where the road goes to the north, and you can see the small, low-slung wood bridge going over this kind of babbling brook that's probably filled, probably a little higher than it normally is because the spring melts. You see a few tents out there, and out in that area, something out there pulls on your senses. Not your sight, not your smell, not anything like that, but something deeper and probably more closer to where your soul might reside. And you get a feeling that there's a set of eyes in this one little encampment that is scanning the horizon and appears to be searching for something, but what it's searching for, or what the thing is that's doing the searching, seems exceedingly powerful.
I'll look to the group and go, it seems something rather strange is going on over there.
You don't say so. Someone's missing.
No, not here. Over there, and I point towards the set of tents that I see.
Okay. Yeah, he points off over towards some tents. As everybody kind of looks over there, you notice that these tents are not kind of set up ragtag at all. You can see a smaller tent and two larger sized tents, and you notice that there are people that are also camped in that area, but they seem to be camped away from the center tents, which are the three big ones and the one small one. You can see from your vantage point as you look down the road and across the creek and across the bridge, you can see that there's some adults moving around, and just by the way that they're moving, you can tell that there's also probably a smaller figure, a child or something in there that's kind of milling around a little bit. Everybody go ahead and roll me a perception check as Seeth is pointing this stuff out to you.
22.
It's a 10.
I got a 21.
All right, so Haberdashia and Seeth.
Oh, wait a minute. Nope, I lied. I looked at the wrong thing. Make that a 17.
Okay, so Haberdashia and Seeth, both of you, everybody's kind of looking out towards these tents, and Hashar and Jaja, both of your attention's probably drawn more towards the adults moving around and the fact that there's obviously somebody smaller moving around. And you two notice that everybody that's moving around in that area is giving wide berth. Like, you have to kind of walk by that camp to get to the bridge, and you literally see some people braving the cold water and moving purposely through the water to avoid, or what it appears to be, avoid to get any closer to that. Seeth and Haberdashia, however, your attention is actually drawn upwards. As you look out, probably another 100 paces past those tents, you notice that some of the smaller trees that lead into the richer forest, you can see behind it, it's mostly coniferous trees like pine trees, that sort of thing. But at the front end, it looks like somebody's planted in some oaks and stuff like that. You can see maybe coming from the inside, maybe 20 yards or so, you notice trees that shouldn't be moving by themselves are indeed moving by themselves. You notice, however, that around them, one, there's no breeze. There's nothing that's causing, or no breeze enough or stiff enough to move trees, especially not trees of this size, and that there is apparently nothing that like there's no animals or anything like that that would be moving around. As you guys kind of focus in on this, you pick up on the movement of something fairly large. You can't quite at this range gauge its size, but you hear a loud squeaking child's voice come from the center of that one small little camp. And all you hear is this very high pitched, "Mommy, Mommy, they're coming again." And as this child's voice screams out, you notice a panic begin to start kind of in those tent areas around this central area. They begin to rustle. People begin to run. You notice that some people, you're hearing people starting to shout and all of that sort of stuff. You notice kind of in this general area, there's a couple men of the militia, if you want to call them that. They're dressed in basically leathers, holding spears. They're very ill-equipped, that sort of thing. And your hopes kind of sink a little bit, because as you realize how ill-equipped they are, you realize that they're probably not going to be a significant help, because what you see comes storming up out of those trees as you see several very large creatures. Each one of them, at first you see only two, and then you see a third, a fourth, and a fifth coming out. You notice that they're all, for the most part, from the waist up, completely naked with tan, mottled skin. Some a darker brown. Some of it looks like on one of their shoulders you see green, like it looks like fur, or maybe it's tree moss or something like that. They all seem to be carrying some form of clubs, but then as you get a better look at them, you realize the clubs are not necessarily clubs. They're actually small trees, because each of these creatures stands anywhere between 9 to 12 feet tall and are probably just about as wide at the shoulders as they are from waist to top of head. All of their heads are definitely large, but their eyes and the way their ears are set and the giant tusks protruding from their now growling mouths, something in the eyes lets you know that there probably isn't that much incredible intelligence about them. Go ahead and roll me on just C. Well, actually, no, everybody. Go ahead and roll me a perception check, but Seeth and Haberdashia do it with advantage.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay, I rolled a 20.
Advantage just saved me. Let's see.
Oh,
What did I roll?
I got a natural 20, but I have a -1 on perception, so but natural 20.
Yay! There's the first natural 20.
I got
+4, so 23.
Yeah.
Okay.
23. Same thing over here.
Yay! Go us.
All right. So, okay, so the majority of you, when you look out at them, you can see like a definite lack of intelligence, but something about these five creatures as they come storming out into the clearing. One is the fact that their vision isn't focused on this village that appears to be completely ripe for the picking. The only thing that they appear to be looking at is that first encampment. All 5 sets of eyes peer down on them. You notice that one of the ones in the center is a little bit bigger, and he doesn't actually have a small tree. He's actually wielding a club that is made of a blackened wood, and towards the tip of the blackened wood there are 3 bands of very dark rusted steel wrapped around going up to the tip. Each one of these bands has roughly 14-inch metal spikes that are also jagged and nicely rusted. He kind of looks in and he points, and all you kind of hear kind of rumble through the crowd is this low grunting sound. As he moves, you notice coming off of his shoulders, off of his arms, you see these little dark wisps, almost like tendrils. They're translucent and very much smoke-like. Every time any one of these creatures moves, in any way, shape, or form, you see these little tendrils kind of form and kind of dissipate and vanish, almost like a fog coming off the back of them. You can hear all of them as they begin to charge forward, their feet slamming hard into the ground. You literally see like little pockets of sod and dirt and grass lifting up and being dislodged. You actually see one of them step on what appeared to be a plank or something like that. You see the plank snap in half and go partially into the ground, and as the creature moves by, his weight actually took the broken halves and embedded them into the dirt. They are rapidly closing in on what appears to be that central area, and people are slowly around the village beginning to panic.
How far away is this?
You're about a good 25 yards from the small encampment and probably another 50 yards beyond that, so about 75 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
I will look to the rest of the group and go, I don't know if helping people should extend that far, but if you guys are up for it, I'm willing to attempt.
Oh, I do say it might be a nice change of pace from riding out in the middle of the forest.
Whatever. I'm all good.
I guess I'm gonna too.
We gotta head that way anyway, right? So.
All right, give me a split second to turn my fan on because all of a sudden it's getting warm in here.
Walking straight to death.
I hate lights. All right, so you guys are going to kind of, how exactly are you guys going to approach kind of to where these giant creatures are looming towards?
You said they're 75 yards away?
Yeah, they're about probably 40 at this point from the small little encampment, where you can see everybody that's there. Even with these creatures coming, people are still moving and making sure they avoid those central three tents. You can see the two humans that are standing there at those tents are kind of almost stuck still in a shock almost as they're looking not back towards the village. You know that there's got to be either a small animal or a child or something in that 3 tent area, but they're not making any kind of movement to go back towards the safety of the village per se. They're actually kind of standing almost stock still, kind of eerily straight as these 4 or 5 creatures are closing in. You can tell that the central figure, the one that's a little bit bigger, he's the one that has the green patch of what appears to be either fur, hair, or moss on his shoulder, with the one with the spike club. He's leading the charge with the other 4 kind of slowly moving along beside him. Their gait, while covering a lot of ground, does appear to be kind of slowish compared to what maybe a normal human would be able to move, but that could be a trick of their bulk. Let's go ahead and do initiative. Let's get that out of the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
19?
22.
Okay, hold on.
Oh my God.
All right.
Oh, that's
Jens,
perfect.
what did you get?
5.
Wow. All right. Happy, what did you get?
22.
22. Jaja.
Oh, 19.
19. And Seethe.
Natural 20 plus 3, 23.
All right. All right. So, I'm assuming you guys are what? Are you guys approaching down the kind of the road that heads in that general direction across the bridge, or are you going to make any kind of movement to intercept before they get to that small little area?
Okay, so there's like a little out camping of people.
Yeah.
And people are avoiding this one central 3 tents.
Yep.
And then there are these, how many creatures?
5.
Coming from the woods?
There's 5.
5?
Yeah. There's a
Wow,
big
okay.
central big central figure that appears to be the leader, and there's 2 to each one of his sides.
Okay. Where are they heading directly? Like, are they heading towards that the void where people are avoiding, or are they just?
Their dull yellow eyes all appear transfixed on that central 3 tents, where you can see the two adults are kind of standing eerily stiff, like almost as if they're being held in place by fear or something else along that line. And you did hear a child's voice in there erupt, exclaiming that they're coming again.
I want to make sure that I have my crossbow handy, and I'm going to kind of try to go out around the edge a little bit more, away from the rest of the group, so that I have a little bit of distance between myself and them.
Okay.
So are we in combat now?
What was that?
Are we in combat now?
No, you're not in combat.
No, okay.
No, we did the initiative just so when you guys get into combat.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cast Eldritch Blast, my big one.
Oh wow!
You're going to cast Eldritch Blast at which one? The center one, or?
Yes.
Okay,
the big one.
so you are now in combat.
Okay. Ooh, that was not good. Okay. That was 16.
16. Yes, that is good enough, though.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So 1d10. And then, it's two beams. Second. Should I roll for the second one as well?
Yeah.
And that'll hit.
Okay.
So I got 7 and 8 damage.
So 8 damage. You cast your Eldritch Blast. You send your blast heading forward. When it gets to about the area of where you heard that child and you see the central 3 tents, it's as if your blast hits something that you're unable to see. It slams into like an invisible wall, and when it hits this wall, you see tendrils where the area of impact is at kind of spider out as if like shattering glass, and they kind of dissipate again like a fog as they kind of get out further. The tendrils look to be made of the same material or substance or whatever it was on these 5 creatures as they're moving forward. It's as if something standing there is interfering.
During the approach, I'll draw my daggers. I'll slowly continue approaching.
Okay. All right. As you guys get probably about 15 feet, you guys probably reach the bridge and are just beginning to kind of go over. Jaja's flanking off to the right-hand side. She is now actually crossed the creek, finding stones to make her way across. But as you guys get to that point, an earth-shattering rumble kind of erupts out of those 3 tents. You don't see anything other than like a wave, like if you're looking at the ground when there's like heat coming off of it. You kind of see that emanate out from the front 3 tent, the small 3 tent area. You see that kind of go forward, and you see it catch all 5 of these creatures that are lumbering forward towards it. And you see their skin, you see their faces contort in pain. You see their mouths drop open. But as this is happening, almost as if their howls of pain are trying to escape, you see their flesh slowly begin to get like basically burnt off, melt full back and peel away from their skeletons. You see first exposed raw flesh, and then you see everything down to their bones go black, and then they slowly just kind of crumble as if dust. Like a light breeze picks up, hits it, and you see these blackened skeletons just kind of tumble to the dirt. You see 5 neat little piles where these giant creatures were coming forward. You can sense that it emanated from in where those 3 tents are at. You hear a small child's voice. You notice the 2 adults that are standing there. Black hair. The female's black hair is pulled back long, tinged with gray. She's got a bit of a middle-aged human housewife's kind of physique that you'd expect. She's wearing a simple bluish garment, probably laced up. a medieval style garment, and her shoulders kind of slump, and the man standing next to her, a large, broad-shouldered, barrel-chested gentleman wearing what appears to be like leather overalls and an apron to match, his shoulders kind of slump, and you can't quite see what's making this noise, but you hear at the very, very center of this little area of tents a small child's voice. I'm sorry, but they scared me.
This is why I'm never having kids.
Both of the parents, when this voice comes out, you see their heads kind of look down. You see what you think from the possibly the mother. You see her kind of shoulders kind of slump forward, and a great sob kind of rack her body, as maybe the realization that they were going to get slaughtered kind of passes away. She looks downwards, and you see her bend down and scoop up a very small child. This child can't be any more than 3 years old at the tops. She has long, flowing black locks that go over a sun yellow, what looks to be a nightshirt. The mother sweeps her up in her arms, holds her. You hear some mumbling, but you can't quite make out exactly what it is, as the apparent parents and this child kind of move away from you and begin moving away. They both continue to look back at the village, and you can hear just murmurs from behind you sweeping through the village, people pointing at them, and you hear some people calling them Drave. You hear somebody blurt out the word gypsies. You hear somebody else call out, warlocks or witches, burn them, as these parents and this child now are making their way down the creek away from the village. You can hear hostility beginning to erupt, even though they probably just saved this village, or at least the child saved the village.
Wow.
Okay, so you said they're calling them witches.
They're calling them witches. You hear the word heretic. You hear the word wizard. Pretty much anything that could be construed as derogatory towards a magic user is being used. Because even though apparently the magic that came from them was enough to stop this village from being harmed by these great beasts, it was still magic nonetheless.
I cast Gust to try to get their attention towards me.
The two parents and the child?
No, the crowd, that is.
as you kind of look around, all right, you kind of look around when you cast this gust to get their attention. But before you even get a chance to cast the gust, everybody roll me an insight check.
Okay, give me a second.
Oh, natural 20.
Yay!
Natural 1.
Another 20. Is that Caitlin's first natural 20?
It is.
All right. Welcome to Dungeon. By the way, for everybody out there who did not know, this is Karatina87. This is Caitlin's very first time playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yay!
So she's new. That's her first 20 ever. So that's big stuff. That's big stuff. So who rolled what?
I rolled 16.
16. Jens?
9. 9.
Hashar?
9.
Natural 1 plus 1.
All right. Jaja?
20 plus 1. So
okay,
21.
so both C's and Jaja, you both kind of, when all these words are being spit out, like the word heretic, darkener, witch, warlock, all these crazy words are being thrown out. The pair of you kind of begin to notice that half the crowd is looking at this mother and child and father that's running kind of along the bank of the creek. You notice that probably about another third of the village is actually focused in on the back of the turtle. All right, Gutter Snipe has given us 500 bits and says for Jaja on her next roll you get a +5.
Oh, Thank you.
All right. Yay!
Oh yeah.
You notice now, though, that the two adults and the child are not running to nothing. There is actually a very large, kind of a long tent. It's probably about 30 feet in length, about 25 feet wide. It is brightly colored, exceedingly brightly colored. And you notice that from the dags that are all around off of this bright yellow and red and purple striped roof, off of the dags, you actually see large, what appear to be silver bells hanging around it all the way around. You notice coming out of this tent a very large, dark-skinned, dark-eyed, very thickly bearded, long-haired gentleman with dark skin. And you can see, even from this distance, that up to his elbows on his arms and up his neck, you can see very, very detailed tattoos. And even from this point, even giving cursory look, you can see that those tattoos appear to be moving. As he exits the tent, everybody that was looking at the mother, the child, and the father shift their attention to the back of the giant turtle in their midst that apparently summoned up some heretical magic and sent it flying through the village. They are all now, the majority of the people that you can see, which right now is probably about 45, 50, are all mumbling and pointing at the turtle. They're not really paying much attention to any of the others of you, but they are indeed paying attention to the turtle. Their attention now almost pushed away by the presence of this man. Go ahead and roll me perception checks.
Perception?
Yes.
Oh, not so good.
11.
Natural 1.
Natural 1. Hey, Ed just rolled her first natural 1. But you get to add 5 to that, so that's a 6. And Haberdashio, what did you roll?
14.
14. So I believe it's Seeth and Haberdashia. You both notice that a couple things over by this very large tent. You might catch it out of the corner of your eyes when you kind of begin to realize that a majority of the people in this village seem to be taking offense either towards the turtle because he's just an odd-looking SOB, or because this odd-looking tortoise turtle creature just summoned up hellfire from the middle of nowhere and sent it lurching through their quiet and peaceful village. And you even notice that the people who were just 20 minutes ago not getting along, the refugees and the actual townsfolk, where there were tensions before, that tension is now kind of formed into a unified front. And they're standing almost shoulder to shoulder. But over by that brightly colored tent, you notice an exceedingly large, eaved wagon. Think about a gypsy wagon, only quite a bit bigger. You notice that it's gaily colored with multicolored leaves and trees carved into it. You can see a pair of oxen, very large, with ornately carved horns standing next to it. You notice a small girl, maybe 6 or 7, sneak out past the tree-like legs of this central figure that came out. And you can see that he's got what appears to be a dark oaken staff or a dark wood staff that has several tokens hanging from it. There's a bell, there appears to be bone, feathers, that sort of thing. Do not listen to Guttersnipe. He will not give you good advice. He's standing there, and as he puts the staff down on the ground, you can almost feel this air coming off of him that is very protective towards those people that just came into his camp. With a very large arm, he kind of sweeps them inside of his tent. The little girl that is kind of now playing around outside, she kind of drops a little bit. It looks like she's going to go down to all fours. And she skirts around the side of the tent, kind of over where the wagon is at, disappears from view, and shortly thereafter, a very large, shaggy dog comes back around and dips back into the tent. When this happens, you are all kind of like, probably, we're going to probably say Jaja and Happy are probably paying attention to the slowly growing mob of disgruntled villagers. But as this happens, Seethe and Haberdashia, you both kind of hear this collective gasp. And you begin to notice some of the older ladies of probably of the community of Trees, as well as some of the people, like you see the local blacksmith. He's got a heavy iron amulet of an anvil around his chest. You're not sure if it's something that represents his god, his religion, his faith, or whatever, but you see him grab it. And several people are making strange gestures. You notice some people are kind of putting their thumb between their fingers. Other people are crossing themselves in strange patterns, and just as this kind of tension begins to grow towards the turtle, it kind of switches, gets split, and then kind of subsides. And as these people begin to do this, they turn away, almost in unison, almost in a mass exodus of superstition, and they begin to file back either into tents, into buildings, that sort of stuff. And strangely enough, the center of the town, the only sound that you can really hear is the babbling of the crick that goes off towards that campment. You definitely get the feeling that there's heavy mojo from over in that tent. You can see the road trail off to the north as it continues on past those little tents and that sort of thing. And as it hits the trees, it quickly turns to nothing more than probably a good wide wagon track as it heads down and through. Welcome to my world.
I'll look to the group. Anyone care to go check out the tent? I like the little show they put on.
I do say. We better do that.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, they're all looking at him, right? I point at our guy.
Most people look at me strange. It's nothing new.
Yeah, but I think they think you might have done that little bit of hoodoo that got rid of his thing.
I saved the day, as just like I said I would.
I don't think they're happy about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll just smile and
go ahead, Haberdashia. Since you're bringing this up, go ahead and roll me an insight.
Oh God. Oh, that's not very good. Hold on. Uh-oh. Get a 6 or a 9. Doesn't have a thing. Can't tell. All right, let's see. What do I have a plus? Insight?
Yeah.
I think it is a 6. So plus 6 plus 2, 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't know. You're kind of torn because you sense that there was something there, but just as quickly as you sense it, it kind of vanishes, and you're like, yeah, sure.
I'm just like, hey. The vibes are not good. I think we are on a mission, right? We got something we're supposed to do that we're going to get paid for. I think we need to do that. That's all I'm going to say.
Of course we're going to be paid and we will complete the mission, but, it never hurts to check out the tent. And while I'm saying that,
you kind of you cut out there a little bit, King.
I said we should check out the tent. We'll get paid for the job after we finish it. And while I'm saying my robes at the same time.
Okay. So what are you guys intending to do? You're going to cross over and make your way over to the tent?
I would like to.
Okay.
Let's go to the tent.
All right. As you guys begin to make your way through the village, you kind of make your way towards kind of the bridge, and just about as you get ready to set foot on the bridge, you hear from behind you a rather high and low at the same time female voice. Excuse me?
I'll turn to look.
Right. As you turn to look around, you see a woman maybe 5'4" in height. She has dusky kind of brown hair that's streaked through with bits of gray. She's human, but maybe in her either early 40s or could be late 30s if her life has been as hard as the skin over her bones shows you. Her skin is very leathery. She's not an attractive woman at all. Her eyes are ringed with dark circles, bags under them. What would have probably in her youth been bright blue, sparkling eyes are now kind of dulled, not from lack of intelligence, but just from age and maybe seeing things that those eyes weren't meant to see. She has basically a long dress on with a kind of Viking style over tunic, apron style dress on, and you can see that she has leather, what appear to be shoes or slippers on. She's unadorned with anything whatsoever. She's got empty hands, and you can see leathered hands as that. May I have a moment of your time?
Oh,
Bless your heart, darling. What can we do for you?
How Jaren, the strange little gnome, informed me just a minute ago that you were going to find my daughter.
Oh, I suppose we were.
Is that really what's going to happen? And she kind of looks at you almost unbelievingly. There's something that you can see that she has little faith probably in mankind anymore. She doesn't seem to be a very trusting soul, and she's constantly glancing down at her hands as she's kind of feeling her fingers and twisting her thumbs and rubbing her hands together. My husband...
Can I hold out my hands and take hers?
She kind of looks at you very, very oddly. You can see like a recognition in her eyes, and for a brief moment there is a touch of that long lost spark as her eyes meet yours. It's obviously that she could see exactly what you are, and strangely she willingly extends her hands into yours. You can feel as your hands touch a slight tremble, almost a tremble of fear, and a little bit of reluctance in what she's doing. She looks up at you, her eyes kind of filling, like the base of her eyes beginning to fill with tears. My husband, this morning before the sun came up, he foolishly, even though I begged him not to, went to look for her. Little Melina is somewhere. And she breaks down in these great heaving sobs as her face just flushes and rivers of tears begin to flood out and drop on her hands and yours.
Ma'am, we will certainly find your daughter, as long as she's not dead or incinerated and scattered into me.
When Hashar starts saying this,
Never felt before.
she completely loses it. Her great racking sobs erupt into roars of forlorn, of hopelessness. You can just see in her eyes visions of her daughter being torn limb from limb or cooked in some giant rusty pot of boiling whatever, and she just screams. She pulls her hands away, turns, and just not even picking up her dress or anything, throws her hands up into the sky and just lets out this blood-curdling scream and begins to run away. She has at this point lost all hope that she's ever going to see her little daughter Melina or her husband, who you don't know his name, ever again.
I'm sorry.
Now everybody's looking at us again.
I look at Hashar and I look like a raging tornado now. And it's like, what have I told you about making such a scene? You have to be careful. You have to be careful of your words, apparently.
I'm sure I didn't mean it like that. There.
Yeah, sure. I understand. Her daughter has probably been eaten by whatever captured her, but
of course, that's why
You have to
you
speak
don't tell
before
people
you speak.
that. Yeah, exactly. She has a point.
All right. I'll stop talking.
Yeah, Source, you got here at the right exact time.
Alrighty then. Well,
So the four of you are left standing there. Some of the crowd is indeed beginning to look your way again. There's like a little pocket of like 3 or 4 people on one side that kind of stop by what looks to be a potter's house, and they're all kind of looking at you as this poor, looks like she's probably nothing but like maybe a housewife who's hard labor on a farm, missing her daughter. Her husband's now gone off to eternity. She figures she's lost him forever, and she is just running headlong, eyes full of tears. You can actually see like tears coming off the side of her face, and she's like, running down the street.
is there like any way like they can catch up with her? Like, is there, wait, no, it's okay, come back.
Probably not. She is
Okay.
literally just at full speed gone. I mean, she's probably, and you can just about imagine in your mind's eye what's gonna happen if somebody doesn't, maybe that she knows, stop her or pull her aside, that she's probably gonna run off and do something herself. She's lost it. The words of Hishar will ring probably in this village for a long time yet to come. You could probably in about 10 years hear stories of parents to get their kids to go to bed or to obey. Behave yourself, or the turtle will rip you apart and cook you.
Yeah.
PTSD, yeah. Can you get PTSD? So you all find yourself still standing there, and you do notice that more and more of the people in the bridge or in the village are beginning to look at you as you stand on the bridge. You have before you, you're kind of almost at a crossroads. You can continue over the bridge and follow the track into the forest and head north to where Treese is at and where all this seems to be originating from. You can actually see as you look into the forest that the trees have been disturbed so that the path is even easier to follow as it gets further in. Or you can actually come off the bridge and hook to the left and go over to the what appears to be the gypsy camp. Now, I'm going to say that Haberdashia, you would definitely know, and I'm gonna probably say that Jaja would know just because I like the name. You both are familiar with what these people in that gypsy style camp are. You know that they are Drave. Drave in the north are looked upon very, very suspiciously, at times openly, but nobody really ever wants to confront them. They are considered workers of what people around here call the dark, which is that magic. They're rumored to tap into the darker edges of the veil, of those things that go bump in the night. There's rumors of them being children stealers, that they have tattoos that writhe as if under their own command, and that sort of thing, which would explain why when this mother, father, and daughter went to that camp and the very large man came out, that the people would probably shy away. And you all feel the urgency of the fact that there is a missing child involved.
Well, I do say let's go make some money one way or another.
Yeah, sure. I'd gladly go slot for my... No, I'm kidding. We can carry on now.
I'm just still holding the bridge of my nose to shake my head.
Yeah. Abby is also kind of just like, oh my god. Oh my god.
We
This is
can't
the
take
woman
you
whose child we're
anywhere.
supposed to save. Well, I think we should get on with saving the child, because that may be the
Well-
only thing that like saves this poor woman. Just ran
I
away
agree with that.
screaming.
The sooner we go get the child, the sooner she's not incinerated or scattered into the wind or anything like that. So yeah.
And these people here, I mean, we could talk to them and ask them maybe to help, but they're kind of dark people. So.
I'm just saying, we should not anything. We already look bad enough. The worst thing comes to worst, we're gonna look even worse trying to leave the village.
man.
We just need to be quiet and go get this done.
Oh, everyone knows we're leaving the village, right? I mean, we're the ones gonna shed the chalk.
So are you going? You're going to head off into the woods?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
We
cross.
need to get out of everybody's line of sight.
Yes.
You cross over.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, you cross over the bridge, and the trail actually leads right through that kind of central encampment that was there. And as you kind of walk through that encampment, you do see kind of where there. At first, it looks like a fire pit, but then you realize that this ground here has literally very recently been scorched, and you can see tendrils of it. What first you think is smoke slowly rising up from this probably 4-foot circular patch of scorched ground. You see these tendrils rising up, and at first they seem to be smoke, but the way they dissipate once again reminds you of what was coming off of the large beasts that were coming your way, as well as the kind of spidering that went across that invisible field that stopped Hajar's demon magic from going any further. As you kind of walk by it and probably skirt around it, you can smell kind of an ozone smell in the air, where it appears that something was summoned up, and this is the origin point, because you quickly thereafter you pass by these 5 mounds of basically bone dust that's been blackened and charred, that's sitting. A light breeze kind of has been kicking up, so you can kind of see little bits of like feathers of ash and streams of ash kind of going along. As you pass over this, go ahead and roll me a perception check.
Worst.
Oh god,
Oh.
that's the worst thing I've ever seen in years.
17.
6.
No.
I need to do my math. 11.
Okay,
Pat your
the two 17. So Hashar and Jaja, as you pass these kind of piles, the largest one is where the biggest of the 5 creatures was at. You noticed as a little bit of ash kind of blows off with the light breeze, you notice something that appears to be kind of ivory colored that's sitting there, and at first you might think that it's bone, but as you kind of begin to pass, your vision's pulled down towards it, and it appears to be a disc of bone. It is almost the size of a large coin.
Oh, I'm totally going to look at that.
Yeah,
We'll just run into each other trying to look at it.
You all fall into a heap, tangled with each other, and a wyvern descends out of the night. Oh, that's a different story. That's a totally different
Wait a
story.
minute.
Sorry. My bad.
Well,
You go over to look at it, and it definitely does. It looks like an exceedingly highly polished coin, and you notice that there's a slight raised area in the center of it. That slight raised area looks like a jagged canine tooth, but it doesn't look like it's been carved out of it. It looks like the bone has been formed through working, or some kind of working, to make out the tooth in the center.
Can I cast Mage Hand?
Yeah.
Try to I don't want to touch it myself, but I want to poke at it.
as she's doing that, I stoop down next to the ash and taste it.
You taste the ash?
Yeah, I get a little my hand and put it up to my tongue.
Okay, you guys see Hashara bend down as Haberdashia does a small working, and as Haberdashia begins to do this working, Seethe and Jaja, you both, it comes snapping to your mind that in this area of the world, magic is not looked well upon. And here is Haberdashia out in the middle. The entire village is looking your general direction because they want to make sure that you're not up to no good. It's like now they've forgot, and you can hear off in the distance this horrendous screaming woman still running. but the villagers, a lot of them have actually come forward and are along the crick line and are now kind of looking at you. So you've got about 35 sets of eyes now kind of looking out across you as Haberdashia is over there beginning to work some kind of a spell.
I will shout as loud as I can in Draconic. Everybody, just stop.
You see, like almost like the wave at a football game. You see this wave of commotion begin from both ends as everybody begins to start pointing. Some people, you actually see a rather rotund elderly gentleman. He's got clothing that makes you think of maybe a farmer or a leather worker, somebody who works with his hands. And he reaches back and he pulls forward these great giant tongs. The tongs are about 5 feet long, and they come to two huge curved blades, and it's obviously some sort of chopping implement. You manage to get your mage hand cast off. It reaches down and it snaps up the coin. As you taste the ash, Hashar, go ahead and roll me a perception check. You pick up the coin, Haberdashia. Let me see what he's got.
9.
A 9. All right. You do not see the dragon. All of it. No. Haberdashia, you pull the coin, this coin up in the ghostly apparition of a hand, and you can see it, and it does indeed look the size of a very large coin. It's maybe a little bit bigger than a 50-cent piece or a dollar piece. I mean, gold, like a silver dollar. And the only marking on it is this immaculately shaped and formed and detailed, looks like a very large canine tooth. But it doesn't look like, if this was carved, whoever did it is otherworldly with the way that they can carve bone.
Question.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad does the group look at the moment?
Odd.
I'm just gonna go ahead and cast darkness. Go.
Oh my god. So
we're solving this problem by casting more spells.
yeah. So Seethe
Winning.
begins a quick chant and casts, and the entire area is enveloped with darkness. You hear a commotion unlike anything you have ever heard erupt from the village. You hear people screaming, "Burn them! Burn them! Heretics! Get them!" And you actually hear heavy footfalls as some of the villagers are literally coming across the bridge.
I cast Expeditious Retreat on myself and book it.
All right. And somewhere on the other side of the village, you hear, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to take our first break for the night. We are going to take about a 5 to 10 minute break. We will be back shortly. Hope you're enjoying. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. And we'll see you all in just a few moments.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
We look horrible.
Alrighty. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Sure.
All right.
No.
And just that quickly, we are back. Did you miss us? Did you miss us? So we're going to get on with the rest of tonight's show. Hopefully we can get this all in tonight. I really hope so, but if not, we'll have to work something out to where we wind up finishing it at a later date. But we'll see. All right, let me see. What am I looking for? Hey, yeah, my notes. There they are. Cool. All right. So the four of you with and you can hear like the angry mob behind you screaming, yelling, cursing out, people talking about getting you, fixing you to stakes, burning you, flaying you. It's like everything they're saying is easily 2 or 3 times worse than any spell that you would cast. Like these people are kind of losing sight of reality, and it's actually not that unusual in the North because people have worked themselves into such a furor and such a superstitious wind up over magic, whether it's good or whether it's evil. Even some of the priestly magics get the same sort of treatment, but you guys fast outpace them, and you can hear them fall off. Out of character knowledge source. You can hear people kind of falling off rather quickly, and you can guess that they probably got to the area where that scorched bit of earth was at, and probably realized that it's not worth the hassle, and they fall off as you guys escape into the trees, into what you hope is safer confines than what you're leaving. And it does cross the back of your minds that if you do manage to retrieve this child and you do manage to solve whatever it is that's going on near Treese, is it going to be safe to return to the once peaceful village of Ambril that you have all so handily whipped into a furor? And you think that somewhere in the far-off forest to the south, you hear a lone female crying into the night.
That poor woman, we have ruined her.
So you spend pretty much the rest of the day traveling through the woods. You pass over a few babbling brooks. The trees themselves kind of hold away. At one point in time, it's very obvious that this road, which is now nothing more than a wagon track, was well groomed and well maintained. And you've all heard the stories of how this land at one point in time, 1,000 or more years ago, was actually a grand and great kingdom before a series of wars shattered it and brought it low. And you've heard tales of great roads like the North Road that for 1,000 miles was cobbled and paved and maintained by garrisons. And you know that the North itself, you guys aren't that fresh to the North. You've traveled, you're familiar with the amount of ruins. You can pretty much throw a stick and hit some kind of remnant of the old kingdom. A lot of people refer to them as, probably unknowingly, but refer to them as artifacts. And that's what you were told about, was an artifact of the old kingdom. You heard when Haljarin brought this up, you heard the old clerk that was sitting behind the desk whisper something about a tower. And so that's kind of set in your mind as being a possible place to look. But you spend pretty much the rest of the day and then through the early evening traveling along the road or the wagon track deeper and deeper into the forest. And as you go deeper, the trees slowly begin to creep in closer to the wagon track, to where the track is no longer showing any resemblance to a road, and the trees begin to hang tighter and tighter. Eventually the sun, its setting light diminishing quickly as the trees begin to grow closer together, larger in stature, and begin to slowly blot it out. Your bellies begin to rumble, and the idea of possibly finding a place to camp might begin to cross through your minds as a bit of weariness, spell casting, and the excitement of what was there kind of begins to cross through your mind and seep into your bones. So the four of you are making your way along this track. What are you going to do? Are you going to go ahead and look for a place to camp, or?
Yeah, I think we should camp.
All right. Go ahead and roll me a survival.
All right.
To everyone?
Anybody who was looking for a place to camp.
All right. 20.
Oh, 9.
9.
I got 20 survival.
And I have that coin.
Yeah.
I may be paying more attention to the coin than
Okay.
just to camp.
All right. So kind of walking along, you guys probably cross over another small stream, and then you hear kind of a larger amount of water moving kind of off to the north, maybe the northeast a little bit. The trees kind of break away a little bit in a small clearing with what appears to be a stone cave, kind of low slung to the ground, maybe 3.5 feet, kind of rising up the opening and maybe about 5 feet wide. You can see that on the inside there appear to be roots that have pierced through the granite of the granite top of the cave. Nothing that you would probably consider to be worthy of using. It doesn't go back very deep. Maybe one of you, maybe a gnome could fit in there or something like that. But the clearing seems to suffice. And you look around it a bit, Seethe, and you can see that there's plenty of brambles and stuff like that to start up a fire. And you also notice that there seems to be a long unused fire pit here. No tracks of any recent memory or anything like that.
Well, we'll just set up camp.
All right.
Well, yep.
You guys go ahead. You break camp. Go ahead and roll me an insight, Haberdashia.
Oh my goodness. Okay. You picked my worst things ever. No. Oh my god. Insight. 5. Good lord.
The coin that you've been looking at and staring at for quite a while does look to be odd, strange. But yeah, it's a coin. It's a coin. And you are still kind of baffled by how well crafted it is. There's no way that this could have possibly been worked other than by the hands of a god or a goddess, somebody with extreme skill. But that's all. It's a wooden coin or a bone coin or maybe some kind of strange stone with a tooth on it. Are you kind of sitting there holding it like this, kind of staring at it?
Pretty much. I mean, I would hold it up at some point and ask if anybody else might have any idea what it is. I mean, I'm not trying to hide it or anything.
Okay.
I like to check it
I'm
out.
probably not going to let go of it. But
Looks
I'll
like
let you look at it.
My precious. Yeah, exactly, Matt Kurtz. My precious.
I like to check it.
Looks like a good skipping stone.
Yeah. Okay. So do you like Seethe is interested in it? Are you going to let him take it, or are you going to hold on to it?
I'll let him take it. Yeah. Okay. Not happily, but if he needs to hold it or something to check it out, then
As Seethe's fingers touch it with your fingers on it, both of you roll me a perception check.
Jesus, I'm the worst
Oh,
at this.
Lord. Oh, that's beautiful. Natural 20 plus 4, 24.
Oh.
Perception, I think, is my -1. So, yep, that means a big 4.
Woohoo! Seethe, as your fingers touch it, and while Haberdashia is still touching it, she seems oblivious to the sound that just emitted from that small little bone or wood coin. But you can swear that you hear emitting from it, "There are 2."
I'll release it and I'll repeat it to myself and Celestia. There are 2.
Seethe releases it, like pulls back from it. You hear him. Everybody hears him mutter out the words that there are 2. He releases it so fast that it tumbles. It begins to pull and tumble away from you, Haberdashia. Are you going to reach out and grab for it, or let it fall to the ground?
Oh, wow. I'm gonna grab it. 'Cause
All right,
I have to.
Dexterity. Just make a straight up dexterity check for me.
Okay. because I don't know. I have to kind of have it. Oh crap! 5.
Okay.
That's just straight dex plus just
Yeah,
mod.
right. You anybody who's looking in that direction, and probably since Seeth said what he said, you're all of your attention's probably kind of in that direction, and you see the coins, this coin, the stone or wood or bone coin, slide out of Haberdashier's hands as Seeth pulls away from it and says what he says. The coin, however, does not tumble. It does not go edge over edge. It falls from her, which granted is not very high, but it falls in a flat position, never wavering or anything. And when it hits the ground, you hear it make a definite thunk on the ground, as if it holds more weight than you might realize. Something very odd and unnatural about this little coin.
I'd like to pick it up now.
All right. You reach down, you pick it up, and nothing else. There is the weight seems to be what you would expect the weight to be. There is no other voice or any other things emitting from it. No other change other than a light breeze rustles the pine cones and the pine boughs above your heads. You think you hear something off in the growing darkness of the trees, but you are deep in the forest. It was probably just an animal, a bunny rabbit or a deer, maybe a raccoon or a squirrel. Have you started up a fire at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna use Firebolt to start up the campfire.
All right. Seeth snaps out his hand and throws a bolt of fire into the fire pit, where I'm sure that you have gathered up twigs and branches and all that. And a fire does ignite. And almost as quick as this fire hits that fire pit, you all hear like a rustling, not one caused by a breeze, one caused by unseen hands, by unseen voices. You hear the pine boughs begin to shimmer and lightly tremble. And somewhere out in that darkness, did you see it? Did you feel it? One has touched the dark. One has used the source. Tonight, sisters, we will feed. And the voice is replaced by this trembling, this through the pine boughs all around you. And then the forest goes silent.
Seed, what did you do?
In Draconic, I just go, I don't know what I did. Do something.
Oh, this is. I said this isn't a good campsite anymore. I don't think. Gotta.
Everybody, make me a perception check.
Oh, 4.
Can I just do a pass on perception checks?
Okay, starting with Jens, what'd you get?
Dead.
Hashar. Happy, what'd you get?
Oh, sorry, 4.
Jaja, what'd you get?
9.
Wow.
Seeth.
19.
Jaja and Seeth. Seeth, you feel this a bit more intimately, a little bit more intensely, but it seems like hidden eyes throughout kind of a circle around this campsite are peering at you. Seeth, you feel it intensely because while Jaja can sense them, Seeth, you feel them slowly land on you. It feels oddly enough like the light from your campfire, which is fairly sizable, It is stretching out. It feels odd because you all see the campfire go to a certain point, maybe stretching out 15 feet. And while, yeah, as the light stretches out into the forest, it would dissipate, it would get broken up and all this. But the campfire light seems to hit darkness. You can see trees, you can see saplings and all of that, but there comes a point where you no longer see the trees and you see the light reflecting back off of inky black walls, or almost like curtains hanging out into the trees. Bet you're enjoying this one, Connor.
Alright, since I feel these eyes staring at me and primordial, I will go. If it is the Covenant watching me, I have no promises to make.
Pyro, magic bad. When you kind of mumble under your breath, you hear somewhere out in the darkness, beyond this kind of inky curtain kind of effect that's wrapping around and stopping the light from emitting out, you hear a very deep, guttural, almost earthbound roar rip through the night air. It seems to be coming from the north, kind of the direction in which your path was heading. And it starts very, very low, and it grows, and you begin to pick up on the fact of anger, of pain, and somewhere out there, mixed in this great erupting howl in the darkness, you hear the lashes of whips, the snaps, the cracks, and you hear this whip hitting something fleshy, and it brings back in your mind, you can almost picture this whip flaying flesh from bone. With each one of these snaps, every time it strikes that flesh, you hear another eruption, a deep earthy growl with resentment, with hatred, with anger, and then you hear it. First one, then another, as footfalls, mighty footfalls. You hear a tree somewhere out in the darkness snap. It's not a light snap. That was definitely an adult tree that you just heard snap and crash. So you do know that if a tree falls in the forest, it does make sound. And the footfalls begin to pick up speed as the lashes fade. The howl turning to fear mixed with anger. And something is moving fast towards your small, little, ill-protected camp.
We will hold our ground.
Guys,
If we don't make it out of this seat, it's your fault.
I blame you for harassing that woman back in the... We would have all been fine.
I'm not the one who picked up the coin.
I'm not the one that picked up this coin. Someone wanted me to look at it. I looked at it.
Great doing, Haberdasher. You done did it again.
Yes, it's all my fault. I'm not the one that, cast the first blow either, though, so.
I really want to go get in the tree. I'm just gonna go snipe.
Whatever it is that is making its way through this broken forest in through the night, it's definitely, you can't see it. You can pinpoint the direction it's coming from the snapping of high branches, the snapping and breaking and pushing over. You hear a tree and you hear something very thick and heavy just thunk into the wood, and you think you can hear the wood splay and the bark split off of it, and then you hear that slow as the tree is ripped from the ground and knocked over, slamming into other trees. Go ahead and give me a survival.
Okay. 19.
10.
10.
6.
8.
8. All right. So see, you can tell that it's probably maybe somewhere around roughly 50 yards away. And as your mind's calculating this, you actually hear the first foot hit whatever that rather large crick, that babbling kind of water sound that you guys had heard in the trees. And you expect to hear a second foot also hit water, but what you hear is the second foot land on land. So you hear a loud earthy thunk and then a deep splash, and you can hear rocks in that water being displaced, and then you hear another foot hit the ground. So whatever it was easily able to cover that probably 15-foot span in one step.
Oh,
Oh, that's nice. Let's see. I'd like to mingle with the wind and get out of there.
Go with the wind and get out of there. Let's see here. Let me look at something really quick. Okay, now I know what I'm working with. All right, so what exactly is everybody going to do? You all hear this thing, whatever the hell it is, approaching your camp.
I pull out my spear.
All right. You see Hashar unsling his spear and pull his spear out and ready himself apparently for combat. What's everybody else going to do?
Go
Let's
ahead
see.
and get my crossbow ready, and
I'm
sneak back
literally
into the
gonna
shadows of
step
the cave.
away. I want to step back some. I'm like a little bit separate into the back of the group.
All right. So Seethe sits and steps back. What are you doing, Haberdashia?
I am just like on high alert and prepared. I will probably have to cast a spell.
All right.
I do have a crossbow now, but I'll probably will do a spell.
And Jaja, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna get my crossbow ready, and I'm gonna go hide in the back of the cave.
All right. So Jaja, you managed to fit yourself in there, and you're actually in there kind of perched down with your crossbow. You're almost kind of like leaning on one elbow and down with your side. So you're actually peering out of it with your crossbow, but you can feel the top of the cave is like right above you. So any fast movement up is probably going to end badly. As you're all kind of sitting there and Seethe is slowly kind of backpedaling, you see that kind of inky veil that was kind of that curtain that was hanging up there kind of part. And you are terrified almost by what you see, because you see first branches probably in the 8-foot, 9-foot high range are torn and lifted forward. These branches are probably a good 12 to 15 inches in circumference, so they are large. They snap with a loud bone crack. Everybody roll me a perception check.
Perception.
Yep.
Oh man. 10.
10.
That don't sound good. Let's see.
Oh no, honey.
Nope.
It's time for the southern bless your heart.
What'd you roll, Jaja?
I rolled 23.
All right. Seethe,
14.
Haberdashia.
Well, I rolled a natural one, and since I have a negative one, it is 0.
Alrighty. And Hashar, what did you roll?
I rolled a 10.
You rolled a 10. So everybody but Haberdashia,
I am just oblivious. to
you
everything.
hear somewhere in the central area of your camp, you hear a very faint a laughter, very faint, and then it fades as this looming creature standing near to 15 feet in height looms out of the darkness. You can see hanging from it in multiple points as deep bloodied, flayed, dark gray stone-like flesh. You can see cuts across each of its cheeks. Its features very gray, very dark, very stone-like. But you can see where the flesh has been lifted from bone and flayed and removed from him. You can see in his hands nothing except for great mighty fists that are bloodied as if he's been punching his way through the forest itself. Some of the shards break off from the trees and slam all throughout your camp. One of the pieces, you all hear a very high-pitched, kind of a scream emit from Haberdashia as one of the pieces slams into her eye.
Oh, nice.
There's your one, your negative one. You take 2 points of piercing damage from that bit of bark that slams into you. And this great stone-looking giant beast roars as he enters into your camp. We're going to go ahead and roll initiative. Oh, man, my dice suck.
Okay. 19.
Oh, initiative. Oh, crap.
Yeah, initiative.
I got 20 altogether.
15.
19.
19. All
Now
right.
I get something.
You're really angry about that getting the eye.
So
My
the four of
rolls
you,
are just
stand there as this great gray humanoid beast comes in, blood dripping from his fist. You can see at several points on his body where this lashing has literally flayed the flesh from him. So you can see like his rib cage on one spot. You can see where there's a flap of skin hanging from his face, exposing the lower part of his orbital bone. You can see this anger mixed with fear kind of roiling in his eyes, and he doesn't appear to be paying any attention to any one particular thing as he slams wildly out of the trees into the middle of your camp. Seethe, you slowly backing up. You gain the upper hand, adrenaline pumping through your body. Probably you're able to leap into action.
Okay. I will cast Hunger of Hadar.
Okay.
So I need you to make a dex check for the monster.
And we're gonna say he's gonna do that at disadvantage because he's not really paying that much of attention. What's the target number?
You have to beat 14.
No. Not at all.
Okay,
This
so-
thing is literally just like mad with terror in its eyes.
A 20-foot radius sphere of blackness. The void is filled with soft whispers and slurping noises. No light, magical or otherwise, can illuminate the area, and creatures within the area are blinded. Any creature that starts its turn in the area, 2d6 cold damage, and any creature that ends its turn in the area must succeed on it or take 1 or 2d6 acid damage. So altogether for d6, right?
Yep.
I'm doing the maths now. And I'm just gonna give you a total altogether.
Okay.
Oh, that's beautiful. And one more. 18 altogether.
As your spell goes off and swallows him in this whispering darkness and all that, go ahead and roll me... No, actually you wouldn't. You wouldn't be able to. You sense the movement right behind you, Seethe, but it moves entirely too fast for you to track it or for you to react in any setting way from it. You feel first something wrap around your chest and then something slide over your face. As this happens, you all hear from behind you a murmur, maybe a cry out, lost in the night air. You think it sounded a bit like Seethe, but you're not sure. Are any of you going to take your eyes off of what's happening in front of you and take a look back?
No.
21 points of necrotic damage.
21.
Yep, and I need
gosh.
a wisdom save.
Okay. Let's do maths with King today. Down to 30. A wisdom save.
Yeah, we should have got a cleric in here.
16. 17 altogether.
Okay, 17 altogether. You all... Your eyes kind of begin to spin, and they kind of go a bit like tunnel vision, and you feel a blackness come over you, but you remain conscious. Whether that's a good thing or not, you're not exactly sure. As everybody in the camp, including Seethe, you hear this wild, maddening rustle erupt all around your camp once again, this time exceedingly close. You hear a loud chattering sound kind of erupting, and then from behind you and directly behind you, Seethe, you hear this sinister voice. This one is ours. And you feel this immense pressure jerk you backwards. You pass through something. You're not sure exactly what it is that you pass through. What you do notice is that anything of light is replaced by darkness, and you can no longer see your party of friends, as you appear to be suspended in this kind of airy darkness, this kind of a void. You can detect that you're moving and that things are changing. As you guys hear this sound and you cast a glance back, you do not see Seethe any longer. You just see a ripple, almost like the ripple you would see on the Stargate, where he might have been standing and gone.
Am I gonna spill back?
Oh crap! Okay.
Oh, man.
You can hear screaming from the darkness in front of you. You can hear thrashing. You can hear something exiting out into the trees.
Wow. Good.
The three of you find yourself still in the darkness of the camp, but you can see that kind of black, curtainy kind of substance, that inky blackness. You can see it not draw back, but just kind of fade. And as you look around, you can see the area where you last heard Seethe. You see like the flap. Like, have you ever seen those really fine linen or silk kind of curtains, like when a light breeze? You see them all the time. Like if you see any southern movies, you go down to New Orleans or something like that, you see them all over the damn place. They kind of just lightly brush in the breeze. And you see that kind of an effect coming from where you last saw Seethe. Go ahead and roll me a perception check.
My God.
Oh, okay. 20.
16.
7.
Hashar?
Dark in here.
Yeah.
What'd you-
20.
20? Jaja got a what, 16?
Yeah.
Okay. And Haberdashia missed?
7.
Yeah, I'm just writing right here on my little notepad that Haberdashia sucks at.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm assuming you missed. So both Hashar and Jaja, you see this kind of wispy curtainy effect, and you see it's the same consistency as those wisps that you thought at first were smoke, and you see them kind of wisp a little bit, and it definitely kind of gives you the image in your head of exactly like you were walking along the French Quarter or something like that, and you look into one of the buildings and you're looking beyond these curtains, because you see beyond a continuation of the forest that you're in, but something about it is a bit darker, and something about it is definitely not right. You see a wisp, a humanoid wisp, being enveloped by these dark shadows. You can hear this hissing sound. this chattering sound, kind of like ghostly birds chattering beyond those curtains. This one is ours. And you hear a blood-curdling scream erupt from in the center of that. It sounds an awful lot like Seethe being torn limb from limb.
Oh my gosh.
What's everybody else going to do?
Okay. I'm not sure how much I perceive, right? Because
Yeah,
my stuff
yeah.
was crap.
Yeah, all you saw is basically a little bit of the wispiness, and you don't hear this, but you know from that general area is where King or Seethe disappeared into.
Okay, so is it obvious though that this thing that's coming at us is not the one doing this other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, the thing that's coming at you is now crashing wildly off in a completely different direction.
It's like, 'cause it's scared. Like, I can deduce that this thing is running away.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
I shall climb into my shell and hide.
you hear Hashar draw himself back into his shell, and the shell kind of teeter and rim out on the ground. It's sort of as it settles. Zsa, from where you're at, you can see what looks like 100 tendrilled arms with raking claws at the very, very darkest central point of where you heard this voice erupt that sounded like Seethe. And you can see bits of dark matter being thrown to the side as the screams subside. And you think you can see trailing bits of blood coming off of each of these chunks of dark matter as they're being tossed to the side.
Wow.
You notice, kind of almost horrifically, that first one, and then another, and then another, and then eventually probably 8 or 9 tendril-like wisps form out of the center area where this darkness is at and begin stretching out forward towards this curtainy-like opening, as if it's coming back out to look for more.
Can I shoot into the center of it?
Sure.
Okay. I'm probably gonna end up killing him.
Hey.
All right. Oh no, I dropped it. All right. Oh, natural 20.
Oh my God.
She saves us all with one shot, yes.
Yeah.
So you let your bolt fly out of your crossbow. The shot, it seems like it should have been rushed. I mean, you can feel the pressure of the situation, but at the very last second, your your feline reflexes snap, your muscles going taut, and the point of the crossbow steadies, amazingly steady, almost icy, as you let fly the bolt into the inky darkness. You hear a hiss, and like 2 of the tendrils draw back as the other 6 snap forward. But you do hear a hissing, and now there's only 6 tendrils moving forward. You don't hear your bolt hit anything. You just hear the hissing. At this point, you're probably realizing that Seethe maybe pushed the luck a little too far. And now you realize that all those stories you may have heard about the Vale, about the North, about using magic kind of frivolously in the North, probably are founded in a bit of truth, as most legends are. The tendrils come forward, reach out, and everybody can see this, right when you think they're going to push out and grab for more of you. They actually reach and grab the folds of the curtain and pull the curtain together. As this happens, you see a very, very faint, darker than black line, almost like a zipper being drawn as they come together, and it's gone. You find yourself standing alone in your campsite, your fire still crackling. You can actually hear in the distance the hooting of a lone owl, some other night birds, and you see, strangely enough, a little rabbit run through the camp. Seethe, nowhere to be seen.
So everything is gone almost like back to normal?
Oh, exactly back to normal. The inky curtain is gone. This giant crashing through the forest. You maybe hear in the far distant reaches to almost to the west, maybe west slightly to the north. You can hear it out there crashing, but it's far gone. However, somewhere back towards the village, you hear a female voice. And Seethe,
Oh my God!
Seethe is indeed gone.
Oh.
Oh,
Rest in pieces.
Does anybody know what happened?
All right, at this point, because I wasn't planning on this, I'm going to take a 10-minute break really quick. I need to talk to the players off camera real fast, and we will be back as fast as I can make this happen. Please bear with us. Everybody say a nice prayer. Raise a toast to Seethe, because he is no more.
Oh my God.
Thanks for the 500 bits there, King. Appreciate it. All right, let me seal these guys out so they can't hear the conversation. Right. So we're still going to be on break here for a couple seconds. We are going to give our good fellow there, King, a chance to get familiar with a new character that he just pulled out of the pool. And I'm going to bring him in here a little bit. So if you'd all be so kind as to just give me a brief second to make some adjustments, and we'll get back to the story at hand.
I'm getting things together.
Let's
now.
get Photoshop out of the camera view.
This is insanity.
Let's see.
Dogs and cats.
It's what happens when you choose the wrong choices of magic, people.
Well, and we're all magic. We were all magic people.
Let's see.
Lord.
This
I have to say, this is a
absolutely
a
craziness.
way to start.
That was brutal. It really was.
I can't wait to talk to people later. And be like, yeah, the first D&D game I ever played.
We all died.
Yeah, one-shot it.
By his own spell is the disappointing.
I know. Well, I'm glad I didn't go first.
Oh my.
I'm almost done. Just trying to finish these spells.
But I can't perceive anything at all, so like, let's not even ask.
You're just
All
kind of
right.
walking around like this.
I'm just like doi doi. Hello. Should I do something now? Boom. Oh, okay. Yeah.
You got the wrong person.
Crazy.
Let's see. That one. Definitely that one. I've got one more choice to make.
There it is. That's what I'm looking for.
Let's see.
And why do not?
Alrighty, have things there. Let's see, what am I missing?
Look at that. Magically, King is no longer playing Seethe.
Killed by his own magic. Disappointment for all. Alright, I think I have everything set up for this character now.
So, okay, give me a couple seconds here. So, for all those people that are watching that have tuned in and do not realize what is going on, we are playing a Forged one-shot. This is where I take four viewers, followers, and subscribers, and I bring them into my world. My world can be a little bit vicious, but if you're interested in joining in on some future games, go ahead and drop me an email at the information below, and I'll see what I can do about it. Also, pay attention to the fact that every week there is going to be a pop-up game, a game where it happens instantaneously. I'll either announce it on our Discord, I'll announce it on our Twitter, or I'll announce it that night during the GM's design. The first 4 people that go ahead and get a hold of me, I will pull you live onto the stream and I will try to kill you.
Yes.
Fairly.
Really, we're unsuspecting innocent bystanders.
So we're gonna go silent. You guys are gonna still be able to see us. I just gotta ask my players one. All right, we're back. Sorry, just had to make sure that if we run longer than another hour that these guys are going to be willing to come back next Wednesday and finish this story. It looks like they are going to be willing to. That means I can take my time on killing the other 3. So, here we go. The 3 of you are left alone. The forest, while it's coming back to life and everything seems to have returned to normal, it still has that eeriness in the air because you can see, looking down, the last place where Seethe was standing. What is something that Seethe would have dropped on the ground?
Oh, the coin.
Okay. The coin released from Seethe's hand falls slowly, almost as if it's in slow motion. And you hear this evil, sinister
Nope.
as it mutes, because the coin falls directly into Seethe's one remaining boot that is sitting on the ground. He was literally ripped out of his boots.
Ouch.
What are the 3 of you going to do?
I have not
You're
moved
still
from my
in your
shell.
shell.
Yes, I'm still in my shell, and I'm going to stay in my shell.
I'm going to call for Seethe. Like, I can't believe he's not there.
Okay.
And then go look at his boot.
Okay. you guys hear Jaja call out almost softly, like an air of disbelief, as she calls out C's name and exits her small little cave. She stands upright, not even bothering to brush herself off as a princess normally would, and she slowly, almost aimlessly, makes her way across the clearing, past the fire pit, to C's boot. When you look inside C's boot, you look down expecting to see a coin. What you now see is a jagged canine tooth. No coin.
Wait, this looked different earlier. I'm going to grab the boot and I'm going to shake it out and shake it on the ground because I don't want to touch it.
As she grabs the boot and shakes it, you see a couple tendrils of that wispy, inky blackness kind of come spilling, almost as if they've been cut off or they've been severed. And as they fall to the ground in kind of a writhing mass, imagine like a couple baby octopi being like given together and slowly dying in a writhing kind of mass of tendrils, hits the ground making no sound. And as it kind of fades away, it reveals the coin. Not a canine tooth.
Has anyone ever seen anything like this? What happened?
I don't know, but I ain't touching it again.
Right.
I shout from my shell, kind of muffled. Is she over there? What? Where is she? Is she somewhere over there?
He's like, no, he's gone. His boot is like left just
Smoking.
I'm going to stick the boot in my bag.
Did you take the boot? Did you just say you took the boot or something?
Yeah, I want to put the boot in my bag.
I'm gonna like, without touching the coin, I'm totally gonna bury that coin. Like, put dirt over it, put something over it, a big ass rock. I'm like, done with the coin.
All right, you actually you get a couple rocks and you stretch your tiny little frame out as far as you can to give a wide berth to this coin, and you bring over an armful of rocks, and you manage to extend your arms and just kind of do one of these maneuvers, and the rocks fall down on top of this coin. And to your horror, you hear the rocks hit the coin, and you see the coin roll out from between some of the rocks. Roll out towards you, come straight up to your little booted feet, and warbles, very similar to Hashar when he pulled himself back in his shell.
It's terrible.
And when it stops, it kind of does that last warble, and then it falls flat. And when it falls flat, you hear that distinctive thunk into the ground.
Oh my god.
You
I don't know
she-
what to do.
She'd always had a way of getting in trouble.
Are
I
you
guess
still
it's
in your
fiction.
shell, by the way?
Yeah, I'm still in my shell.
I just knock on you. Can you help us?
I'm not coming out. Not coming out.
I didn't know you were scared of everything.
Hell. I wish I could do something to identify this thing, but I can't. I don't like it. I'm gonna try to walk away. I'm gonna like walk away.
So you're gonna turn and just walk away from it? All
I
right.
mean, I'm trying to see if this coin is gonna like
Oh,
follow me or something.
I want to stab it with one of my daggers. I want to see if I can destroy it that way.
Okay.
I can't get with you.
So you make your way over to the coin, and you unsheath one of your daggers, and you kind of probably have to kneel down. And you kneel down onto the ground. You can feel the cold, wet, damp earth kind of seep in through your clothing. And something kind of feels odd about that in and of itself, because you've had a fire going. There has been no rain. And the earth seems a little damper than it should be. And you draw back this dagger. And you get ready to strike down on this small stone or bone coin or whatever it is. Spock, thank you for the follow. Super appreciate it. Welcome to our unique and, yes, sometimes dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
As you raise it up, you, Sandoval, have been wandering through these blasted woods for what seems like a fortnight. The last town you remember being in was Spring Hill. Somebody had said something about some tower to the south that holds some strange riches deep beneath it from the old kingdoms, lost to time. This kind of played on temptation and put this idea in your head that if there was anybody in Athelm that was better suited to go into those depths and retrieve this lost rich, it must be you. And plus, there has to be a banging good story to go along with it. That was a fortnight ago. You've been lost since about the second or third night you made your way into this place, into this forest, shadows moving. You a couple times have used your magic for assistance, and you quickly learned that that's probably not the best thing to do, especially since you're unaccompanied, because it seems to draw in those things from the darkness to come and pay extended attention to you. Everything was going good other than being lost and a little bit hungry until just a wee 20 minutes ago. You luckily heard the crashing coming through the forest. You heard the trees being blasted down. You heard the roars of pain, anger, and terror ripping through the forest. And you managed to roll out of the way as this enormous gray, bloody, distraught, stone-looking creature destroyed your camp. You thought it would be wise to make your way away from there as fast as you can, because you noticed that the forest seemed to be paying attention once again. You are now through the darkness, standing roughly about 5 feet, tucked into a little bank of shadows by an enormous pine tree. Looking forward, you can see the sputtering, probably foot-high flames licking the night air, and you see a giant turtle shell in the middle of this camp. You notice a small figure kind of backing away, looking at something on the ground. And you see this feline-looking cat creature raising a dagger into the air, intently looking at the same spot that this small creature is that's backing away, about to ritualistically strike down at something that you can't make out on the ground. Everybody go ahead and give me a description of your characters in this exact moment, except for Sandoval, because they do not see you.
All right.
So starting with Haberdashia.
I am taking steps backwards. I don't know what's going on. Things have been crazy, and I have not been all that sharp about what's been happening. So I don't know exactly if this coin has anything to do with what happened to him, but I am not taking chances at this point. So I am backing away slowly and watching as she's trying to stab it.
Okay. Hashar.
I am nothing but shell right now on the ground. There's a backpack and a cloak just kind of tossed over the first quarter or so of my shell.
And Jaja.
And I'm stabbing a coin.
Yep. And you see standing in the shadows, Sandoval. First off, go ahead and roll me a stealth.
Oh, a natural 20 plus 5.
Okay.
25.
Wow.
So you're tucked hard into the shadows. You've got them kind of almost mystically without using magic, because you know that these woods react to that in the most profane way. So you pull yourself into the shadows. You remain hidden as this feline creature pulls back, and you can tell at this point that she is female, and slams downwards with the dagger slamming into this coin. And you expect, because you're looking at it, it's either wood or bone, because you can actually see very fine striations in it that indicate that it's either wood or bone, like maybe a whale bone or something like that. And you expect your dagger to slam right through it. How many daggers does Jaja own?
More than she has pockets.
Okay, that's a good thing, because this one is
She has
turned.
3.
Yeah,
So
this
go
one,
on.
that's a good thing, because she now still has 2. As this one is turned into a very large, flat fishhook shape. As the first 4 inches of that blade are curved and turned backwards so that they're pointed up to form exactly that, a handled fishhook type shape. When this happens, that coin pops. You see the moist dirt under it kind of compressed down, and the coin pops into the air, and this time does tumble end over end. And it slowly lands. Haberdashia, this is happening for you in slow motion. Go ahead and roll me a perception check.
Come on. Come on. Roll something above a 10. Oh, yay. I got a 17 minus 1, 16. That's probably my best one, though.
As the coin flips end over end, it somewhat twists in the night air. And as it starts falling, it gets about eye level with you. And you can see when it's twisting, you can see the tooth design on it. But at one point, it turns almost flat to you. And that tooth opens up into a deep, dark, earthy green eye that is shot through with bloodshot. And as it hangs there impossibly long, it blinks once. And you see that it looks at you and almost takes in your form as if it's memorizing who it's looking at. The eye closes and it continues to fall to the ground. It once again is nothing but just that bone relief on it. As it hits the ground, you expect it to hit and wobble, because that's the form it's taking. But it hits, wobbles once up onto its side, and rolls towards you. Once again, stopping at your feet. With a thunk, it falls to the moist earth. And you hear, "Come to me, Haberdashia." You're the only one that hears that.
Oh. Damn it. I can't, but I'm going to pick it up.
Oh my gosh.
You pick up this small coin, and you hear in your ear, as you're picking it up, an elderly woman's voice. "This is your calling, child. Come to me. Serve me."
Is it speaking in just regular common?
Yeah, but there's a very thick very, very thick accent. Go ahead and roll me an intelligence check.
You cut out.
Just roll me an intelligence check.
Okay. Holy crap. Jesus Christ.
Oh no.
4.
Oh.
Yeah, and there's an inflection and an accent that sounds familiar, but you can't discern or remember where you've heard it before. But you do, for a brief moment, as the voice fades in your ears, you're drawn back to a much different time. You're drawn back to when you were just a wee little girl. And the smell of early summer pies, berry pies, baking in your grandma's small earthen hut. Whether the memory's yours or not, because it does have an alien feel to it, it does play through your mind. There's a almost scary, uneasy comfort and warmth that washes through you.
Okay.
You all see Haberdashia just kind of standing there, like, lost for a moment.
Little one.
They're all looking at me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not me.
Well,
Okay.
somebody's hiding in their shell.
Oh, I know what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I am going to try. I don't know if I can do it, but I am going to try to use message and talk to the thing so that they can't see me talk to it.
Roll me
Or can
roll me an insight really quick.
Oh, God, I'm not good at that. Oh, but that's not terrible, at least. Okay, let's see. Insight. 18.
Well, that's definitely not terrible, because just as the thought of casting the spell comes into your mind, you remember hearing Seethe snapped from the clearing. You remember hearing the chattering and the rustling. You remember the giant creature coming through, and you remember seeing the tendrils beyond the curtains. And you take just a split second, and almost a low male voice of all things whispers gently through your mind, "Are you sure?"
And I'm like, no. You're right. I wanna kind of try to like whisper to the thing, like as covertly as I can, as I'm like maybe trying to tuck it into my pocket or something.
Okay, roll me a stealth.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Stealth. 10.
What are you saying to the coin?
I'm just saying, okay, I'm cool with you. You know, I'm agreeing to what his talk said to me. But like I can't talk now, so.
Everybody, all three of you, the two of you, you and your shell, Hashar, and Jaja, kind of looking at your now bent third dagger, and Sandoval hiding in the shadows. You all see this little gnome trying to tuck something away. And you can tell that she's trying to do it in such a way that nobody else can pick up on it. Nobody else can see it. She's trying to hide her actions. And you literally hear her say, "Yeah, I'm cool with you," as she tucks the coin into her tunic or whatever it is that she's wearing for garments.
I immediately get out of my shell.
Cool with you.
Can I ask, Can I guess, try to deceive her into telling me what she heard by being like, "Oh my God, did you hear that too?" Because I want
Yeah, go ahead and role play that out.
What?
Go ahead and role play that out.
Did you?
What? I didn't
You
hear
heard
that.
that?
Nope.
Well then, what?
This
why
thing
were you
is just
talking to me like-
weird. I'm just trying to be nice to it because I don't want it to like, those
Do what it
tendril
did to
things.
deceive?
Mhm.
You should leave that thing in the.
Roll an insight, Zsa Zsa. Haberdasher, roll me a deception.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
An
Oh, yes. Finally, something I can do.
What'd you get, Zsa Zsa?
13.
Hab?
24.
Oh hell yeah! Her story pans all the way out. You take it up to the Supreme Court of the Wildwood Reach, and all the justices, all 142 of them, say that she's telling the truth.
Yeah.
She sells it perfectly.
I think you should leave that thing in the dirt.
I tried to. It just keeps following me. I might as well just take it, right?
Chuck it into the woods.
It's cool. I got it. Don't worry.
Are you sure about that?
You just hide in your shell. Go ahead.
I'm not on my shell now. I'm not going back in.
All right. Well, we'll just see what happens. I got it. If anybody's gonna die, it'll be me. So
Sandoval, you see this whole scene unfold in front of you. And you're tucked into the shadows. You're 100%. You know that these guys cannot detect you. You do see though that they do have backpacks, and it is apparent because you can see that they have like cook's utensils and that sort of stuff. And you see, strangely enough, as you look through the camp and you're watching this unfold, that it seems like they were set up for 4 people, not 3.
Okay. Would I have seen that whole weird thing with the coin going down?
Yeah, you would have. Yeah, you saw the coin roll to her. You saw the cat, like the feline creature, stab it.
Okay.
And you saw it roll over to the gnome, and you saw all of that.
All right, I'm gonna step out and out of the shadows and into the middle with my rapier in hand. What kind of ritual in the 9 hells doing out here?
Go ahead and give me a character description so our 3 other players can see what it is that's just entered into the firelight, and so that our viewers can see what's entered into the firelight.
Okay, so as Sandoval enters the firelight, he's this bright red tiefling. He has horns, and funnily enough, it's a ribbon hanging from one. And he's standing taller than most of the party.
So the 3 of you see this demonic-looking form step out of the darkness, roughly the same direction that the giant creature went, and present himself with weapon drawn.
I pull up my spear again and go, "Who are you?" Just kind of.
I left my crossbow probably over there, so I'm gonna grab my other 2 daggers and have them ready.
Okay.
Because I've already broke one.
So Hajar pulls out his spear. Zsa Zsa brandishes 2 daggers. What is little Haberdasher going to do?
Just stand there, kind of look at him and be, who are you? I mean, we just lost somebody in the inky blackness. What are you going to do to us?
So yeah, she blurts out that yes, indeed, she confirms your suspicions that there was a 4th member. That she says something about the inky blackness taking him, and basically is like, what are you gonna do?
Is that the ritual I saw going on? You guys sacrificed someone? You are monsters.
Hell
All of
no.
you.
Ritual? You think we're doing? We're not doing any ritual.
We didn't do anything. We were just trying to get a night's sleep.
Just
That's
minding
it.
our own business when this curtain came up from the woods, this black curtain, and took a friend of ours, and he's gone now. I guess he incinerated or something, spread it in a million pieces. I don't know where he is. His boot's somewhere around here.
That sounds exactly like what happens after a ritual. And I definitely saw a creature with the tail and maybe paws, I'm not sure, stabbing at something on the ground.
Okay, that was no ritual. We were
So
just
is-
trying to get rid of some stuff.
When Seeth casts Fireball, is the fire going right now?
Yeah, the fire is going. Yes,
Okay.
it's kind of dying down now, so it's just starting that like very first step of sputtering as a fire begins to die. But there is still light coming out.
So you all sacrifice someone to what
No.
you call this god you
just-
call the
we're not-
inky blackness.
We
And
didn't sacrifice anybody.
We didn't do it.
We're just
so
about
you're
to sit down to the fire, and this stuff came out from nowhere. This giant thing
You
it
have
was
to
going to
learn
attack
it
us.
so loud.
It was incredibly loud.
oh,
And
do you mean the giant thing that made its trek past your camp?
Yeah.
yeah, did you see it?
Of course I saw it. You can't miss it. It's a
Did you-
monstrosity. I am one man, and these woods terrify the heck of me. I would never try to kill that thing on my own.
Well,
Well, what
neither
are you
would
doing
he.
out
I'm
here?
just gonna.
Exactly. What are you
Turtle.
doing out here all on your own?
I was hired for a job. I am going to I'll tell them I'm going to a village.
All right. You are, Sandoval, exceedingly hungry, though. I mean, everybody, matter of fact, everybody in the camp, make me a perception check with advantage.
Ooh,
Oh, okay. 11.
20. Not a natural 20, but 20.
Haberdashia,
13.
13. And what'd you get there, Hashar?
11.
You all three hear, first low, but you definitely hear a strange rumbling. And at first you almost brace yourselves for something else to come crashing through the damn darkness, as if your night hasn't been shattered enough. You haven't even closed your eyes for sleep. The exhaustion is setting in and the hunger is setting in. But the rumble appears to be coming from right in front of you, as this odd reddish creature standing in front of you's stomach lets out the deepest hunger growl you have ever heard. It literally emits into the campsite and plays off the trees.
Wow, what was that?
I'll look around like I have no clue. Yeah, what was it? And something-
That was you, man.
I've got to say,
Alright.
it sounded like me after a day of nothing but walking through the woods, when I'm on jobs and doing stuff. Wasn't me though, but it sounded like that.
I'm now gonna look to the party. Okay, you caught me. I've been wandering for days through the dark woods by myself.
Huh.
And
How do we know you know? How do we know you're not casting rituals and stuff out here, huh?
it's pretty obvious I'm not casting rituals. If I was casting rituals, I'm pretty sure I'd be dead by now. A one-man ritual. I would like to see how that turns out.
I mean, you seem to think we're casting rituals. We're not casting.
Well, it sounded like it. The inky blackness sounds like some kind of god you've never met. You're running a fire. I seen stabbing. You say there were four of you.
It was a description. I was describing what I saw. It was an inky blackness. When I said it's not a thing, it's not a thing. It was a inky blackness.
while they're arguing, because one of my things is cooking or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and start making food.
All right. So as you guys are all three going through this, Jaja pulls out cook's utensils, rekindles the fire, and begins to make food. Whether or not it's of any real quality at this point in the night doesn't much matter, because the scent that's coming off of it strikes all of you and reminds you just how hungry you are, some of you more than others.
While she's doing that, then I go ahead and take a short rest.
All right. So you all are gathered there. Jaja gets done cooking up kind of a stew, basically using rations, some roots, some other things that are laying around, and some water. And it smells fairly good. It will pass. Hashar goes to do a short rest, and he realizes that his foot's missing, and it's in the pot. No.
I was going to use him as the soup bowl.
Oh my!
So she cooks. Do you guys kind of begin to sit down and settle around some food? And do you offer any of this food to your new guest?
I have to offer it to him. He's raised well not to. Sorry.
So you all gather around the fire. Your newfound friend amongst you. Do you join them, Sandoval?
Yes, and I will sing a song.
All right. Go ahead and roll a performance.
Let's see. 17, 20, 21, 22.
22. So Sandoval begins to sing a song. It lifts your spirits a little bit. The food helps as well, and the night continues to grow. It must be easily after midnight. Your bones are weary. Your nerves are frayed, and sleep comes for all of you. Shortly after you get done eating, you all find your way into the land of slumber, and the night takes over. As you're all sleeping, would somebody out there in chat type me one of the characters' names, and I will use the first one that comes up?
Oh gosh.
Oh.
Like I said, we always involve our viewers. So type in one of the characters' names, please, in chat.
Mad clergy, don't do it.
Oh my.
Jaja.
I knew that was coming.
The three of you, that being Hashar, Sandoval, and Haberdashia, are ripped from your slumber. A mixture of nightmare. Boy, everybody's got it in for Jaja. There's two. The first two that came up were Jaja. Well, then we'll make it two things. The night air is shattered. Your dreams come crashing down around your head. Your sleep massively disrupted as you bolt straight up. Sleep filling your eyes as this blood curdling, almost like if you ever stepped on a cat's tail solidly, that scream that erupts is what you hear now, filling the camp and shattering the peaceful night air. You can hear birds, night birds, thrashing as they're making their way out of the trees around the camp. And your eyes slowly focus as you see Jaja's thrashing body being pulled along the ground into the woods. All you see is her legs pulled upright as something exceedingly tall. One hand on one leg, one hand on the other, pulling her into the night. This isn't inky darkness in any way, shape, or form. And you can pick out slightly hunched over 7.5 foot tall, thick creatures with spindly legs and long arms, ending in 4 taloned fingers and a greatly taloned thumb. You can tell by the way the hands are shaped that there are obviously 2 figures pulling poor Jaja into the night. Everybody, roll me a nature.
Nature?
Yep,
So
nature.
I roll it as well.
So
Yes.
we all got woken up to see this?
Yes.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
8.
8.
17.
17.
14.
14. So everybody but Hashar, your jaws drop. Your eyes extend to saucers. Because while you've heard the tales of these things, you've never seen one in person. Now you're getting a chance to see 2 of them in person. The terror scream erupts again as Jaja redoubles her thrashing to try and get away. She is swinging wildly with claws, completely forgetting about daggers. She's lost her mind trying to get to these 2 very well fed, large trolls that are dragging the poor feline princess into the darkness. We, here at Forge of the Table, will see these 4 wonderful players again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we will find out, 1, what happens to Jaja. 2, if these guys can actually complete the quest that they've been sent upon. I would like to thank, first off, I would love to thank King, Caitlin, Happy Zoos, and once again Jens for coming along and playing around in my mad little creation. I appreciate it. Hope you 4 had fun. I would love to thank all the viewers that stopped in tonight. I would love to thank Gutter Snipe for the 500 bits, King the Fallen again for the 500 bits, a toast to his fallen first character. I didn't get this one yet. Zangoose for the follow and for the tier 1 sub, and Spock for the follow. So please go ahead and come back next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern to find out how this all ends, because our 1-shot just became a 2-shot. Good night, everybody, and have a good one.
Thank you.